I will not be on Love Marriage Huntsville. So there's your answer today. We will not be on Love Marriage Huntsville moving forward after this season. So we will be living our real lives, focusing on the future. And when this season's over, when you see us in the next few episodes that are coming, and when you see us on the reunion, I will explain to you some of those reasons as well, because there's a lot of stuff you guys don't get to see behind the scenes that happens. There's a lot of politics involved in this business.
The cameras didn't catch this part. Not the whispers, not the late night phone calls, not the moments when smiles dropped the second filming stopped. Because what's coming out now, it wasn't meant for the audience. For years, fans thought they understood the drama behind Love and Marriage Huntsville. The arguments, the friendships, the betrayals. The truth? The truth was hidden in plain sight. And now, piece by piece, it's finally being exposed. At first, everything looked like just another successful reality show. Big personalities, strong couples, heated conversations that kept viewers glued to their screens. Love and Marriage Huntsville wasn't just entertainment, it felt real. The relationships were messy, emotional, sometimes even inspiring. People saw themselves in these couples. The struggles, the love, the tension, it all felt familiar. But reality TV has a way of showing you just enough to keep you watching and hiding just enough to keep you guessing.
Talk to Sonny. Sonny was on the production team when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And Sonny was very, very, very helpful to me. So when she came to town for y'all's podcast, I did ask her if she would talk to me, and kind of what happened.
She just didn't come from Maurice, though.
You said she didn't come from Maurice?
Yeah, sorry.
You trying to say you can't trust him around your man?
Yeah.
Sonny said she didn't want none out but men.
She did say that. She made that very clear.
She did. Because we were like, now we just can't trust production around our men. And she was like, that's not your worry.
They're saying that's sad.
Well.
Behind the scenes, things weren't as balanced as they appeared. The friendships weren't as natural. The conflicts weren't always spontaneous. And the bonds people believed in, some of them were already cracking long before cameras started rolling. Because here's the part most viewers didn't realize. This wasn't just a show about love and marriage. It was also about business, power, and control. Many of the cast members weren't just friends, they were business partners. They had shared investments, shared reputations, and shared risks. That meant every argument wasn't just personal, it had financial consequences.
Ooh. Oh! It's messy, but it's the truth.
Because I was her producer, and this was her boyfriend at the time
Right.
that I was working on the show.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But it wasn't no kikiing going on at that time. We had just, literally, it was just, that was her guy, and that was it.
All right.
We saw each other one time.
Okay.
And then you stopped working on that.
And then I stopped working on the show a year later. We started bumping it when I came back to St. Louis in 23. We started seeing each other all the time.
Every disagreement had layers, and that's where things started getting complicated. At the center of it all were couples trying to balance love, loyalty, and public image. On camera, they smiled, laughed, and built their brands. Off camera, they were dealing with real pressure. Pressure to perform, pressure to stay relevant, pressure to protect secrets that could destroy everything they built. And slowly, that pressure started to crack the surface. At first, it was subtle. A look that lasted a second too long, a response that felt a little too sharp, conversations that didn't quite match the energy from the previous episode. Fans noticed. They always do. Something felt off. But here's the twist. It wasn't just tension between couples, it was tension within them. Some relationships that looked strong on screen were struggling behind the scenes. Communication was breaking down. Trust was being tested. And instead of stepping away to fix things, they had to keep filming, keep smiling, keep pretending everything was fine. Because once you're part of a show like this, your personal life isn't just yours anymore. It becomes content. And that's when everything started to shift. What nobody expected was how deep the cracks really went. Rumors started circulating, quiet at first, then louder. Allegations of betrayal, questions about loyalty, concerns about what was real and what was just for the cameras. And instead of calming things down, the spotlight made everything worse. Because attention doesn't just reveal truth, sometimes it distorts it. Cast members began to feel like they were losing control of their own stories. Scenes were edited, moments were rearranged, conversations were cut in ways that changed their meaning. What they lived and what the audience saw weren't always the same. And that disconnect, it created frustration. Some felt misunderstood, others felt targeted, and a few started to feel exposed in ways they never agreed to. But here's where things really took a turn. Off-camera, alliances were forming, quiet conversations were happening, people were choosing sides, not just for friendship, but for survival. Because in a world where your reputation is tied to your visibility, staying relevant can feel like everything. And that's when trust started to break. Friends who once supported each other began questioning motives. Private conversations were suddenly public. Secrets didn't stay secret for long. And every time something leaked, the tension grew. Because once trust is gone, everything changes. What nobody expected was how personal things would get. This wasn't just drama for entertainment anymore. It was real people dealing with real consequences. Marriages were being tested in front of millions. Friendships were collapsing under pressure, and every mistake was amplified. Then came the moments that couldn't be ignored.
Arguments that felt too real, emotions that didn't look controlled, reactions that didn't seem scripted. You could see it in their faces. This wasn't just acting anymore. This was real. And that's when fans started asking bigger questions. Not just what happened, but what aren't we being told? Because the story on screen didn't fully explain the reactions off screen. Social media became a second stage. Cast members started speaking out, but carefully, saying just enough to hint at deeper issues, but not enough to reveal everything. Posts were analyzed, lives were replayed, every word was dissected, and slowly, the truth started slipping through. There were disagreements about how stories were told, concerns about fairness, claims that certain narratives were being pushed while others were ignored, and most importantly, frustration about how real lives were being turned into storylines. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Some of the biggest conflicts weren't even shown. Moments that could have explained everything, cut. Conversations that could have changed the narrative, left out. Decisions that impacted relationships, never aired. Which meant the audience was reacting to an incomplete story. And for the people living it, that felt unfair. Because imagine trying to defend yourself when only half the truth is visible. Imagine being judged for moments that don't show the full picture. Imagine watching your life being discussed by strangers who don't know what really happened. That kind of pressure builds, and eventually it explodes. There came a point where holding things in wasn't an option anymore. Emotions were too high, frustration was too real, and the need to be heard became stronger than the need to stay quiet. That's when the tone started changing. Interviews became more honest, social media posts became less filtered, and the polished image the show once had, it started to crack. Because people weren't just protecting the show anymore, they were protecting themselves. And that's when everything changed. The idea of reality TV started to feel different. Viewers began questioning what they were watching. Was it real? Was it edited? Was it a mix of both? And more importantly, who was telling the truth? Because when multiple people have different versions of the same story, it's hard to know what to believe. But one thing became clear. Something wasn't right. The emotional weight of it all started showing. You could see it in how people spoke, in how they reacted, in the pauses, the sighs, the moments where words didn't come easily. Because this wasn't just about a show anymore, it was about identity. being part of something so public changes you. It forces you to see yourself through other people's opinions. It makes you question your choices. It makes you second guess your relationships. And when that happens long enough, it takes a toll. Some cast members started pulling back. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly. Less engagement, less openness, less willingness to share everything. Because they realized something important. Not everything needs to be public. Not every argument needs an audience. Not every truth needs to be exposed. But at the same time, silence has its own consequences. Because when you don't speak, people fill in the gaps themselves. And those assumptions, they're not always kind. That's the position many of them found themselves in. Speak and risk making things worse, or stay quiet and let the narrative continue without you. There's no easy choice there. And that's what makes this story hit differently. It's not just about drama. It's not just about entertainment. It's about what happens when real lives are placed under a spotlight that never turns off. Because eventually, something has to give. And for some, it already has. The emotional impact of all this goes deeper than most people realize. Imagine trying to fix your marriage while the world watches. Imagine dealing with betrayal while knowing it could become a headline. Imagine questioning your friendships while cameras capture every reaction. That kind of environment doesn't just create drama, it creates pressure, and pressure changes people. Some become more guarded, some become more reactive, some try harder to control how they're seen, and others, they just get tired. Tired of explaining, tired of defending, tired of being misunderstood. Because at the end of the day, no matter how strong you are, constant scrutiny wears you down. It affects how you think, how you speak, how you trust, and most importantly, how you feel about yourself. That's the part viewers don't always see. The quiet moments after filming ends, the conversations that don't make it to air, the emotional weight that doesn't fit into a storyline. That's where the real impact is. And that's why what's being exposed now matters. Because it reminds people that behind every scene, every argument, every headline, there are real human beings trying to navigate something incredibly difficult. And maybe, just maybe, the biggest truth of all isn't about who was right or wrong. It's about understanding the cost of fame, the cost of visibility, the cost of turning your life into content. Because once that line is crossed, it's hard to go back. And now, as more pieces of the truth come out, one question remains. Was it all worth it? The attention, the drama, the exposure? Or did it take more than it gave? That's something only they can answer. But for the audience watching from the outside, this story is a reminder. Not everything you see is the full picture. Not every smile is real. And not every truth is shown when the cameras are rolling. Because sometimes the biggest stories are the ones that happen when everything goes quiet.